Hello, storytellers and story lovers. Thanks for tuning in today. Today, here where I'm at least, it is sunny and bright, and you can tell fall is starting to come in, and so the mornings are cooling down, so I can spend more time outside, which I love. I need my sunshine. So, if it's a great day where you're at, hit that thumbs up button. Today, we're going to be going over outlines, and you're like, I know what an outline is. That's too basic, right? But I wanted to talk more about just how to start and get going writing. Now, sometimes when you come up with a story idea, you don't always have all the pieces that you need to complete the story. That's okay. But the main idea is to get down everything that you have at this point in time so that you don't forget something or that you can work on adding something in. So that's why my choice of structure is an outline, because I love lists. Lists work for me. Like, if I need to get anything done in my day, I need to write out my list so that I don't forget something, so that I can just go down in order and mark things off as I go. And I don't always go in order, and that's okay too. I have here my notebooks that have some of my other stories in them. Now, I can't really show you the contents of them, but I have been a little disorganized, and sometimes that happens because if you're like me, I'm constantly thinking of things when I have a story idea that I'm really loving and kind of involved with. And so as I'm going throughout my day, the thought that I just had helped me fill in that gap that I needed for that particular part. And so I end up having several different pieces of paper with written down things or notes that I need to fix or have. And like I've said before, sometimes that can look very disorganized. Well, that's why I like to keep a notebook for almost every story idea that I have. Now, this one had the outline and the notes for my book that is coming out, Chosen Secret. But it also had another book in it. And sometimes that's okay, especially if I break it up, like half the notebooks for this story and half the notebooks for that story. But it started getting muddled. And that's not good. What I usually do when I get a story idea is I take a blank piece of paper and I just write out everything that I can think of, even if it's not in the right order, because then I can take a separate piece of paper and restructure it in the order it needs to be for the book. And this one, I can show you real quick as an example. Hoping you can't see all that because, like I said, don't want you stealing my ideas. But basically, just a piece of paper, shove it in my notebook. And then I have my checklist that I need for each of the parts that I need to write for that book. But then I can just cross it out when I'm done with it. And why I like notebooks is I'm old-fashioned. Certain parts that are stuck in my brain that I'm really excited about, those are kind of the ones that I write first, but I usually take a notebook and I handwrite them out. Now, I don't handwrite out the whole book. I, of course, use my computer and I type out things. I use the voice recorder on my phone. You can use anything that you like. Probably using an app on your phone or typing it out on the computer is going to, of course, eliminate all the clutter from papers being shoved together. There was one more thing that I wanted to discuss that my friend brought up with me before we get to writing an outline together. And that is, well, what if I don't have a story idea? Like, how do I just start writing? Well, it's just like with any muscle that you have. If you don't use it, you lose it. So my suggestion would be is if you can't even think of a story idea but you want to write, then write. Even if it's about like an apple and a banana and their friends on your counter, and okay, what are they looking to do? Are they just wandering around on the counter? Like I said, do they become friends? Is banana having a hard time walking because apple can roll around? You can pick anything and just write and flex that muscle so that maybe your thoughts will start going, and then something might click and you'll have that light bulb moment and then you'll get your idea, because anything can spark an idea. I could be watching a movie or hearing a song, and sometimes that sparks an idea. And it might just be a little thought, a basic one about like a relationship, a couple, or a lost treasure or item, and even that can spark a story idea. So my suggestion is just write. We're going to get going. We're going to look down here at my board, and I'm going to try to just write out a basic outline of what I like to do. I have a method that I've come up with that has helped me stay more organized than all this that you see here. And I am going to tell you all about that in a different video. But I am going to use some of that right now. Alright, so to get started, usually I use a pen, but today I'm going to use some markers just so that maybe you can see it better as I'm writing it. I first start out by writing outline. But you can put the name of the book if you have the name of the book, or maybe the name of a character that you have at the top. It's whatever you want it to be. And then we're going to make some bullet points to mark our events that are going to happen. Alright. And for this, I'm going to use the story of Little Red Riding Hood, just because it's a very simple, basic idea for a story, but you can definitely elaborate it in your own way and elevate it more. So we're going to start off with Little Red. I'm just going to initial this. Walking through the village. And maybe you want to, of course, describe the village, mention some other characters that she's friends with. But then she gets home, right? And you'll want to describe the home. And someone, we don't know who right now, and that's okay. Someone tells her, Grandma is sick. Oh no. And she needs to make something and take it to her. Okay, now this could be a whole event, a whole thing where, oh no, she needs to go back to the village and get things to make it. Maybe it's a potion, and so there's other ingredients, or she has to go find a witch or something like that. But then that means that this one, you might need to make a different piece of paper for and outline more of those details. But right now we're not going to do that. We're just going to continue. So now she's making something and she's going to take it to her grandma. Well, let's pick a color. We're going to go over to the wolf side of the story, because sometimes you don't really hear his side of the story. So we're going to go with blue to write the wolf's point of view. You could color code this any way that you want. I don't necessarily color code it, but hey, it makes it fun and it'll stand out. And if you particularly want to write right now one of the parts about the wolf, you can do that. Let's just block off these. I don't know if we're going to need more for the wolf or not, but we're just going to go with that. And woo, what just happened? Okay, so we're going to go over to the wolf and who the wolf is and why does he like or is obsessed with Little Red? What's his background? What's his background story? Okay. So, how does he come up? Come up with plan. Now, how does he come up with it? Why does he come up with it? All right, and there we go. Now, same thing with what Little Red is going to make for her grandma. Maybe these are going to take longer to describe, and we might have to add in a few bullet points and write something else in. But that's where we can go over to a different page and write those down. And then we would take out another piece of paper after the whole thing's listed out to what we know so far. And we would rewrite that outline out. So we have those parts in there without having to squish them in to what we've already had to write. But let's continue. So, Little Red is in the woods. And we're going to want to describe that. And she meets someone. And we know that this someone is probably the wolf, right? Now you can do this in any order. What if you put this one up here and then you bump the wolf down to down here? It's whatever you want to do. In whatever order you're going to have it for your book. And then we can show either the wolf getting to Grandma's. Maybe we add that up here. Wolf gets to Grandma's house. Right? We're going to have to describe Grandma's house. So Little Red gets there. And she thinks she's talking to Grandma. He spelled potion. I'm not good at spelling. Potion. Is that potion? Or is that poison? I don't know. But there you go. Spelling error. Ooh. Maybe you can enter in for my drawing. And then what happens? But as you can see, that this is what I usually do. Now, what if you're like, you don't have the wolf's point of view? Well, that's fine. And you don't think of that until months later. Well, like I said, you get out a different piece of paper, write down his stuff, and then you get out another piece of paper and you write out that outline with it added in there. It's whatever you want to do. Now I'm going to grab a different piece of paper real quick. And here's something that I've started doing. Is to keep track of my characters and my setting and certain events so that I can flip back to it and refer back to it, because maybe it's been a long time since I've written something out and I need a reminder about one of my characters and how I described them, or the setting and how I described that. So I've started, let's do a setting. Let's say the cottage. Of Little Red. So her house. Okay, so maybe I'll find a picture online that kind of reminds me of what I'm thinking I want Little Red's house to look like. And I'll either keep that in my phone, or you can print it out and put it on your piece of paper. But then you have all this space that you can describe it, where you can write out, it's a shabby looking roof with rundown shingles. But you have purple flowers that line underneath the window, and then that way you have this page that you can refer back to, so that when you're ready to write this part up here, you have something that, an image that you can go off of to describe it, but then you have a little bit more detail, or you've already described it, and you can just plug that right in there when you start writing that part. And let's say this part is really sticking out in our minds. For some reason, we really want to write that part. Well, we write it down, we plug that in there, and then we cross it out. Boom! One section of my book is written, and I have that done. And then let's say the wolf's part of his background is sticking out in my brain. And so I write that. So I X that out. And then I have it written, and I can just plug that in when I start writing more of this part. But maybe I need to describe the wolf, because I have a unique way of how I want the wolf to look. Maybe you're wanting him to be more of a werewolf. So we're going to say wolf. And once again, you can have a picture. Pictures lately have really been helping me so that I can describe stuff better. Because there was a part in recently when I was writing my book, I'd have to say a year ago, where I was like, why can't I describe this one part in my book? And it was frustrating me to no end. And I was like, oh, what am I doing? If I had a visual to go off of, then I could describe it better. And so that's what I've started doing. I've started doing more of this kind of setup so that I can refer back to these basic or important details, so that I can write them better in whatever section that I write next for my novel. Well, I hope this kind of helps you so that you're more organized, because I know I'm trying to get more organized, because I'm going to be writing a lot more books. So I better start getting a bit more organized with my things and remembering details, because the details is what really helps you, the reader or the audience, know what's going on and make it feel more realistic. So don't forget to LSN, and I will see you next time.